Yeah, my name is Mary Lee Kopacci. I'm on the board of Cornell Cooperative Extension. I was a 4-H'er, became a master gardener over the years, and more recently a food preservationist, master food preserver. I highly recommend all those programs and everything else Cooperative Extension does for our communities. I just want to put a little sound bite in. This week I had the privilege to speak for just a minute or two to thank the Rensselaer County legislatures for having us every year supporting our programs. So there's a whole decree of the amazing things our county does, including the number of farms and the children that are served and the different programs that we have. So if you ever want to learn what Cooperative Extension is about, we'll send you a copy of this. It is phenomenal. It was really great to do. And we also have our annual report this year, so everyone's welcome to request that. This week, we have two wonderful special guests for our soup program. This is our Back to Home Basics series, second year. This year is, this fall is seasonal stews, soups, and sweets. Last week was stews. This week is soups, and in 2 weeks, we'll do the sweets. So this week we have two phenomenal special guests. I'm so happy they're here and they agreed to come and join us. And they are Eva and John Moore from St Croix Farm in Hoosick Falls. And we welcome you. We're so happy you're here. You saw many of the farm animals they have and the incredible foods they produce, and they produce foods for many places in our area and beyond, including like Jack's Oyster House and many other places. So, but what you don't maybe know when you see what they produce is you do not know how dedicated they are as people producing foods with their science, current research and experimentation to produce healthy soils and healthy grasses for the beef that you see or the poultry that you're seeing. And I hope that John and Eva, you will tell us how that's done, but they really experiment with that so that there's as little fertilizing as possible and really on the front edge of a lot of what they do in the sciences and the efforts. So we really applaud you and really do appreciate what you're doing. We're so proud to have you in our county, truthfully. And the second person after that will be Judy Bodner. And Judy Bardner became this past, I got to know a little bit more as a soup chef, not sous chef, but a soup chef for Ty's Bistro American that opened up recently here in the town of Sand Lake, April Park. And people were coming back for the soups and many other things. But I'm so excited that Judy's here and she's not here in our vicinity at this time. She lives elsewhere during this time of the year, but we're so pleased that she did this from afar. So welcome, Judy, and welcome, Eva and John. So without further ado, I think we can get started. Is that right? So the first thing we're going to do is St. Croix Farm.
Well, I want to thank Marcy and Mary Lee for asking us to come on board tonight. It's really a pleasure for us. Probably more so for Eva because I'm a little more comfortable with 100 cattle by my side than 35 or 40 people at a Zoom meeting. This is all new for me. So if you see Eva's expression change, that means that I've said something that maybe I shouldn't have. So you got to bear with me on that. When Mary Lee says, we're on the cutting edge, that was really quite a build-up, but it's not really as exciting as she leads it up to be, It's letting the animals be the animals. We move the cows every day to fresh grass. We move the chickens every day to fresh grass. We leave the manure behind. All of our animals are pastured. We're just trying to take care of the farm and learn about soil health as we go. We haven't used any pesticide or herbicide on our pastures or our hayfield in 8 or 9 years. We're not certified organic because we don't need to pay $700 to sell another notebook full of paperwork. So we do put on a farm tour twice a year usually, or at least once. And you can come out and for yourself. If it's something you like, then, you're welcome to let us know that that's a good practice, and we'll keep that up. So we're a 700-acre farm in northern Rensselaer County. My mother and my wife and myself and my sister and our children. We've got one hired man named Mark Hill. So he is a farmer also. He's got his own farm, but he works with us. And he helps us raise our pastured meat. And he also has a farm stand of his own, where he raises some vegetables and some lamb. And he raises some hogs for us to sell at our location here. But what we do is we move the cattle every day, and that's a big thing for us. And a lot of people think, John, why don't you just turn them out there and, let them go for the summer and you wouldn't have to work that. By moving them every day, they're harvesting the best grass available. It's like, when you're eating asparagus, you eat the best part of it and leave the rest behind. You let the cows select what they want for their diet. And it's a very diverse diet. You hear a lot about diversity now in our society and so forth. Our plants are very diverse out in the pastures because we don't spray. So there's clover out there, there's grass out there, there's some stuff that people would call weeds. But the cows will eat those as long as they're, at a young stage and haven't become mature, and there's a lot of nutrition in them. There's different root profiles, so different vitamins are available. I get pretty excited about it, and I can keep talking about that for a long time. If anybody's got any questions at any time, feel free to ask. We try to deliver some of the best food we can. All of our stuff is frozen, so there isn't a shelf life and a big hurry to get it out the door where you have to be here at a certain day to pick up. My wife operates a CSA out of the house here, and we also have a website where you can put an order in. If you want 1 pound of hamburger, we're glad to sell it. We've got some stuff tonight that we're going to show you quick. I don't know if it's going to show up great on the camera, but it will be ready for soups. We've got a whole chicken that we would sell, and we've got some beef shanks.
Hold on, just want to say, nice plump chicken. Nice plump chicken is what we have. And you'll notice that the skin and the fat are a nice bright yellow color, and that's because John allows the chicken to harvest the sunshine. And you'll really see a difference in the texture, the color, and the flavor of the chicken. But that's what we have is full roasters, and we have those in different sizes available on our website.
We've also, got oxtail, and
So I just want to say the oxtail is sectioned. I know people ask that question. It's a lot easier for you to work with. The butcher does section it for us in about 2 to 3 inch length to make it a little easier for you. And soup bone. They come in about 2 pound packages, a nice big hearty soup bone. And we also have marrow bones. They're packed in about 1.5 pound packages. And we have beef shanks. They're about 1 pound or 1.25 pounds. So a lot of different options to get that nice flavor in your soup.
Good.
so
I know I interrupted and made him lose his train of thought.
So our farm is about 700 acres, so it's a little over a square mile. And next spring, we're going to have the entire farm seeded down, which is a big thing for us. By having the whole farm seeded down, we seem to having these rain events now, where we get these 2-inch storms or 3-inch storms. And if you look at our website, we've got some video posted on there. All of the creeks that run through our farm, that originate on our farm, run clean, even in the middle of those storms. And I think that's a pretty big thing for clean water, you know, not only for us, but for people downstream for us. I feel as if we're doing our part. You know, when I look at the Hudson River or even the Hoosick River, after one of those big storms, it seems to run pretty brown. And, you know, those are the best soils that are leaving our farms and going down the river.
Mm.
You hear about that in the Mississippi Delta a lot. Well, it's just on a smaller scale here. And those are the best soils that leave first. So we want to keep them on the farm and try to build fertility. By moving the cows every day, we trample a lot of grass down and leave that almost like a mulch on the surface of the soil. And that's how we build soil health. We keep the temperature of the soil down. It's a much more friendly environment for insects and worms. And you gardeners will know that the dirt behind an earthworm is 8 times better than the dirt in front of an earthworm. And so, you know, we're actually worm farmers if you break it right down. As long as you can get that environment healthy for the worm, then you won't need any fertilizer. And the soil starts to take on this generating property where it's fertile on its own almost through hyphae and mycorrhizal fungi. It's a very complicated thing, but it's very simple when it comes down to it with management. So that's what we work on, and we're multi-species. You know, we talk about diversity in plants, and we've got diversity in species too, with the chicken and the cattle. We've got a small herd of goats, and we custom graze some sheep once in a while. And we've got some hogs that Mark brings up here once in a while, runs around the farm. So all those animals, you know, they eat a different profile of grass. There's no competition between the goats and the cows. And the manure has different properties on the other end, so it's kind of a closed loop as far as keeping those nutrients on the farm. The other thing I wanted to touch on quick, when we get our animals processed, I don't know if anybody's familiar with the term one-cow burger, but when we go to the meat packers, you know, after they get done cutting up our animal, they clean their machines out so that our beef is our beef and it's not somebody else's. And when you hear about these recalls that are hundreds of thousands of pounds, that's because that's that day's production. And that's a big problem when they have a problem that tests positive for bacteria. But at our local slaughterhouse, if there is a problem, then it's only our problem. But they've never had anybody else positive. And that's a pretty big thing. In the future, you're going to hear not so much about soups, but some local farms about one-cow burgers. You just can't get that other than with local processing.
Yeah, I see.
All right. So I just want to tell you a little bit about, if you're interested, how you can source our products. I think Marcy's going to be kind enough to put our website up on the screen. And just one correction, John said that the rainwater video is on the website. It is not yet. It was included in a newsletter. You can subscribe for a newsletter on our website. But our daughter is our tech person. She'll be home for the holidays, and she will get that video up on the website when she's home, or she won't get that. That's the deal. But we do welcome individual sales. As John said, if you want to pound a burger, if you want to grab a couple things, try them out, see what you like, we do welcome that. We also have a CSA program. So I'm sure a lot of you being invested in interested in food have heard of that term before, community supported agriculture. And that's a relationship between the farmers, the producers, and the customer. We promise to provide your food. You promise to buy it from us. It's a nice mutually beneficial relationship. What it does for us, we ask people to kind of give us an idea, a projection of what they think they're going to need for the year. And that gives John a planning tool to know what he needs to have available, what he needs to grow, and then when we have to harvest it to have it available. We hold those products in reserve in our walk-in freezer. If supplies are getting a little low, we will not offer those particular products to individual buyers on our website because we've already promised them to our CSA members. So that's one of the little perks. You can, if you're a CSA member, you're not locked into just getting certain products. You get to choose what you want, and you can always add and change your orders at any time. We want you to have what you want and when you need it. So we're not going to lock you into taking things that you're not going to keep. We do offer a 5% discount if you prepay for your standard orders for the year. And you know, when we welcome our customers here to the farm, we consider them part of our farm family, and it's not just an advertising gimmick for us. It's really important to us. It's really a very gratifying position to be in, to know the people that we are nourishing. It's a nice sense of community. It's a wonderful way for us to build relationships. You know, John will tell you my favorite thing when my customers come is when they give me a hug. It's not mandatory. Some people are not hugging. Some people are just so happy to be getting in their hands this incredibly delicious, nutritious food that John is growing. And there's hugging that happens, and it's really a beautiful, beautiful thing for me to experience. John's not a hugger, so you know it's just me. But it really is a community that we're building. And you know, the other nice thing, when you get your food, it goes from our farm to the butcher and then back to our freezer. That's the path it travels. So, you know, it's how far away?
6 miles.
6 miles from farm to here and then into your hand. So you truly know where your food is coming from. You know, if you're familiar with food that is that fresh, that close to the ground, as they say, you know, there really is a taste difference. There's definitely a health benefit to it. So, you know, we encourage people to try us out if they'd like to. I think I touched on all the big points, but you know, we're happy to answer questions at any time if anyone has any questions.
So I do have a question. So John, Eva, so that means your hamburger, the one hamburger I might eat after I order yours, did not come from 3 different countries in one burger, right? Is that what you're saying?
We can tell you the lot number on each pound of hamburger that goes out of here, and we can trace that back to the cow that it came from.
Right. We know exactly what cow that burger came from.
Yeah, that's the point I'm making. Is in a grocery store, so often in the big facilities, the beef gets mixed from different places. You know, so this really is a relationship to the food directly, and a lot less gas coming through to transport, and you're really seeing the food be produced, and then we're getting it at its best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. That's the benefit of having it directly right from our community to our plate. All of those benefits.
Well, a lot of times people say, know your food, know your farmer, you know. And if you take the time to take a look at our website and see those products and the time that Eva puts into the marketing of them, we get pretty enthused about it here at the farm. And Eva is the face of marketing, you know. The production we take care of up there, and then she does all the rest. So if you've got a question, usually she can answer that.
And we really do the invite questions because it isn't the typical way that you buy food. I'm a very visual person, and I am working on getting more photos up on the website. John's telling that a little bit too hard about how good I am at all the tech stuff in the marketing, but you know, we're always happy to pull stuff out of the freezer if you want to get a look at it, because you know, when I used to purchase food at my Croutons at the grocery store, you know, I would look at it. I couldn't visualize how many pounds it was, but I would look at it and know, okay, that will feed my family of 4, or I want 2 of these, or you know, I want to know what the fat covering is like based on the recipe that I want to use. So, you know, we're always happy to show you our products, answer any questions. We really like to have a great dialogue with our customers. As John says, we like to remove all the barriers between you and our food. So,
I heard when we were getting ready to make this webinar that you also have pheasant. That you have pheasant, and do you have quail as well, or is it?
So we don't have quail. The processing cost on quail is just a little too high for us to be competitive. They charge us, you know, $5 or $6 to process a bird. And the guy says, you know, that little quail is as much work as a full-size bird, and he says, you know, we have to pass that along. So we're not competitive with quail. We do have a few pheasant every year. They go fast when we get to that time of year. What we do is we hunt most of them. And then if there's any left, then we run them through the butcher shop and have them available. For us, we have a lot more fun hunting and meeting some hunters. So we try to market all of them that way. And then if there's a few left, then we do put them into circulation.
And just one more thing to note on our website. The inventory changes constantly. Our CSA pickups are the first week of the month, and you'll see a real dip in quantities of some things when we fill those orders, but we take a beef to butchered every other week. So those numbers will bump right back up again. So just because you don't see something one day doesn't mean we don't have it. And again, you know, we encourage you to ask. If you don't see it, we can let you know when it'll be back in stock.
And if there is a particular cut that you don't see on our website that you're used to getting from your local butcher, we can get that, but it's tough for us to predict what everybody wants to use. We've got the basics on there, but you know, some of these creative chefs, they come out with this cut of meat that's down inside a whole group of muscle. And usually our meat packer is willing to go in and get those special cuts out. So we can produce stuff that if you don't see it, give us a try, and if we can come up with it, we will.
So several of the products on our website are from requests for conversations with customers. So sometimes they educate us, sometimes we educate them.
Okay. Thank you so much. Eva and John, thank you so much. We encourage anyone who has a chance to take a tour or explore more on the website. I'll talk a little bit more about Harvest Connection. So if you don't remember St Croix Farm, that's C-R-O-I-X, of Hoosick Falls. So sorry. Oh, I think I said it wrong. That's why I got a correction. Of Valley Falls. How far are you from Troy? Like downtown Troy, say?
So if anybody's ever been to the Schaghticoke Fairgrounds, we're about 2.5 miles from there. It must be 12 or 13 miles down to what I would call the city of Troy.
Half-hour drive.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Valley Falls.
Twice a year, and twice a month. And that has a lot of information in it, as well as some recipes. And we encourage you to sign up for the newsletter. There's a lot of information in there.
That's where you would find out of any upcoming tours or farm to table suppers.
So you recommend we sign up for that information. That's helpful. And you can always contact Cornell Cooperative Extension if you forget everything else, and they'll direct you also. All right. Well, thank you.
I did put the Facebook page. I put the Facebook page and their website in the chat box so they could copy it, and they could copy it and save it in their favorites right now.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, and stay on and ask more questions as you want to. But next we have Judy Bardner, and she's ready to go, I think. Judy, is that right?
Sure, absolutely. So,
A little bit about yourself.
I make soup. I make soup. I love making soup. Soup is a great meal. It's rich in some amino acids that collectively you refer to as umami. It's the fifth sense of taste. So it's not sweet, sour. It's not bitter. It's umami. And that's that magical taste that when you tasted something your grandmother made from scratch that popped out at you, and it's just something you're never going to get at a fast food restaurant, and you're not going to get it usually without actually going out and searching for it. And the best thing about umami is it doesn't cost anything to put into food because it's best gotten from your refrigerator. So what I do in my house and even at the restaurant is at the end of the week, I'll go take a look in my vegetable bin and I'll see what's in there. And anything that's in there comes out on the shelf, and that becomes the soup of the week. There are certain kind of constants. If my children thought I was crazy because every time they'd have a chicken, anytime they would have a roast, I would say, can I have what's left over? Can I have that skeleton? Can I have that carcass? Can I have that? And can I have the pan drippings, please? And all of those things are full of amino acids and full of this wonderful, wonderful background taste. It's going to make your soup magical. And so all of that goes in the freezer. If I'm chopping up an onion, any of the skin or any of the onion that I peel away goes in a bag. If I'm peeling a carrot, I wash everything before I peel them. But if I peel that, all of those carrot peels go in a bag and they go up in the refrigerator. And at the end of the week, I'll take out some leftover chicken drippings from a roast chicken. I'll put that in a pan. I'll add some water and I'll throw all of the carrot tops, the carrot peelings, the onions, any leftover parts of shallots, anything that's left over in my refrigerator. I don't let my celery go to waste. It's always, there you go, Mary Lee, take a look. And all of that goes in a pot. It goes in a pot and it goes on the back of the stove and it goes on a low simmer. And it's just something that, you'll replenish. Maybe you'll throw in some wine if you've got a little leftover wine. And then I'll throw in a few magical things. So there are some magical foods that will make every soup amazing, no matter what. I'll let you know my secrets. So first of all, you need to have shallots. Shallots are amazing. They're not an onion, they're not a garlic, they have their own specific little note in the symphony on your tongue. So shallots will do that. In the onion family, leeks are loaded with umami. So I always have a leek. There you go. I always have a leek. And you see all that green stuff that you chop and you throw away? Don't do that. Don't do that. Chop it up in little pieces and throw that in that pot that's kind of percolating on the back of your stove. I like to use sweet onions. I'm not a big one on, white onions or regular onions because they tend to be bitter. I'm very careful with garlic. I have a little plastic container. There you go. If you're going to use a garlic, use it at the last. Don't let it sit there for a long time. Right. There you go. Well,
that's a no. Is that a no?
Would take a top and a bottom of that, and definitely that's a yellow onion. You could throw that in there too.
Okay, we got your permission. Good one.
Yeah, skin and all goes in the pot, and it's just percolating on the back. And if you want to have some other little things to throw in there, shiitake mushrooms and morel mushrooms. You can get them dried and you throw them in your food processor and you'll get a powder. And
Oh,
a teaspoon of that powder thrown in your soup, no one can taste mushroom. They just know that the flavor explodes in your mouth and it feels like a symphony. And also, if I'm doing like a sauce, or I'm using like a tomato sauce or a spaghetti sauce, or even a red soup, like a tomato soup, the least teeniest bit of a habanero pepper. And you have to be careful. It has to be the tiniest little bit, maybe even a 1/16 of a habanero pepper that's pulverized and thrown in the soup. You don't taste it. It just gives a magical body to the whole soup. And if you do that, then you just take that, whatever it's been cooking for about 7 hours, very slow, just barely at a simmer. You take that, you strain it, you keep the juices, and that's your stock. And that's the magic stock that you throw in everything. So if you've used some chicken, it's not vegan, but if you've only used the vegetables, you have a vegan stock. And then all of the recipes that I think are included at the end of this webinar, use that magic stock. Okay. So if you cook a chicken, save all the juices. If you cook a roast beef, save all the juices. You can, if you're worried about fat in the chicken or the beef, you take that stock that you've just made, put it in the refrigerator overnight. The fat will come to the top. You harvest the fat and save the fat, because you can use that in all kinds of things in your cooking in your kitchen. And now you've got the basis for your soup. And then the rest of it is just what you throw in the soup to make. One of my favorite soups to make, especially this time of year, is leek soup. It's loaded with umami. And that leek soup can become watercress soup by throwing in some watercress. It becomes asparagus soup by throwing in asparagus. It's sort of like the bottom. It's sort of the base soup for anything that's magical. And a leek soup with watercress is a traditional Christmas soup that I highly recommend. And I think maybe that was the watercress leek soup was the first soup that started me on my career of making soups, because I went, oh, what's that? And I had one taste of it, and that was it. And the rest of my life has been spent trying to figure out where the magic is from soups like that. I have a bit of video showing you how to make leek soup. If anyone has any questions about anything, how you make a stock, how you make a soup. The other important thing about a soup is there's no magic. It's not like baking, where you need to sift the flour and have exactly a cup and a half, or you have to weigh it and have just the right amount. A soup can be plus or minus. And it's something that if you say, hey, I think maybe this little spice would be good, go for it. Grab it and throw it in there, but start small and then taste frequently, and then build on that flavor. And your soup will never be bad. And the next day it's even better. So with that, if you want any questions, and we could go right into making a leek soup. And
sure.
And this is me in my kitchen. There's no hair and makeup done. And if you look, my little dog is photobombing the whole process, because the kitchen was smelling pretty good, I've got to say. So you want to hit the leek soup?
Sure, absolutely.
We'll show you how to make leek soup in 2 minutes.
And I just want to tell you, Judy, I show this because literally I pulled this out of the ground less than half an hour ago before we started. So that's why it's a seasonal soup. It's still growing. John and Eva, you probably garden, I'm sure. And I see a lot of gardeners on the screens. This just came out. So it really holds up. So I'm not surprised leek soup at Christmas even, because I pulled it up out of the snow.
And I think
Amazing.
wanted to have a really interesting dinner party. You could have soup shots. So you could have like one soup, okay, done 5 ways, and have little shots with a salad. And I think that's awesome. Maybe we'll do it at the bistro. Maybe
so.
Because, I think it would be a different kind of a party. That and a crusty bread and a good bottle of wine. Ah, awesome.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we're just about ready to start our soup. So I think we'll make a leek soup. It's delicious this time of year. Leeks are in season, and leeks are especially noted for their umami flavor. And there's a lot of umami in leek soup, which is one of the reasons it's so popular. So basically, your soup consists of the chicken broth that you've just made yourself, some shallots, some garlic, some more onion, some carrots, some celery, some potatoes, and usually a red potato works the best, and a little bit of parsley. So let me get over to the stove and I'll show you what happens. So here we are. I'm apologizing for the camera angle. I wish I had my grandson here to help me with this video. I have my soup pot, and in the bottom of it I've melted about 3 tablespoons of butter. You can use butter, you can use olive oil, or you could use some of the chicken fat that you've been saving in your refrigerator. But I like the depth that the butter gives to the soup. And into this I'm going to toss in my aromatics for them to brown and sweat a bit. Here go the onions. Here comes the shallots. Good. And I like to do the onions and shallots first. I hold the garlic to later because it gets very bitter if it overcooks. Give that a good stir, and we'll let that sweat down. I'm also going to add my cleaned leeks. If they're still a little damp, that's just fine. Give that a good stir. And we're going to let that sweat. So okay, now the onions and the leeks have sweat down very nicely. And the rest is quite simple. We're going to add our chicken stock. And to that, we're going to add some carrots. And I've got both a white carrot and an orange carrot. This will make the soup a little orange colored when we're done, and that's very seasonal. I try to stay away from the purple carrots because that purple color actually bleeds quite a bit, and you'll end up with a very purple looking soup. I find them really great in something like a borscht soup. It adds a little depth to the color. And now I'm going to add some potatoes. And the best potato to use is a lower fiber potato, like a red potato or a Yukon Gold. Try to stay away from the russet potatoes. What we're going to do is we're just going to cover this. And we're going to let it just slowly simmer until everything is mashable. So we'll give you a few minutes and I'll be right back. While this is coming to a simmer, I like to add just a little bit of parsley. I'll add more at the end. Okay, so now we're down to using our immersion blender. The potatoes are soft, and oh my goodness, this smells amazing. So let me start the immersion blender, and this may take a while. I'll be back in a sec. Okay, we're fully blended. At this time, I'm just going to take a little soup out for some tasting, and we'll adjust our seasoning accordingly. You look, there's a nice thick consistency to this soup. Some people at this point would add some heavy cream or other milk product to lighten it a bit. I kind of like to leave it this way. Also, if you don't put milk in it, it freezes very, very well. Okay, let me just check the seasoning and I'll be back. Boy, it's just about perfect. I think what I'd like to add at this point is a little bit of pepper. And when I serve this, I'll dress it with a little parsley. And you could add a dollop of sour cream or a little bit of heavy cream.
Judy, that was wonderful. Tell us what sweating is. Tell me more about that.
Okay. Sweating is, well, it's just, it's just reducing, it's reducing usually onions or other aromatics in the onion family overheat until they get very wilted. But what it does is it actually releases the amino acids in the onions. So what you're doing is you're making glutamates, okay? And glutamates are one of the big umami's flavors. So when it makes your tongue just sing. It's a symphony in your mouth. And, you know, sweating or with any vegetable, but especially an aromatic, any in the onion family, just reducing that onion down over low heat for a period of time until it becomes very limp and you get a little fluid over the limpness of the onion, releases the smell, and it turns the onion taste into something different. And it's because it takes the amino acids and reduces the proteins and reduces them to the amino acids that make your tongue very excited. So I'm sure there's a technical way.
That was good. That was great. So what's your favorite soup? And John and Eva, I want to know what yours is as we run down the list of what others' favorite soup is. And then I wanted to share a couple of tips I had here also. So John, Eva, what's your favorite soup?
John's not a soup eater. He's a meat and potato. He loves the crusty bread.
Take him off the show.
But what I love about soup is like Judy said, whatever you have in the fridge. You know, I have a cookbook that has a great little quote. A minister said to his wife when she brought table to the dinner, "My dear, I think I've blessed a good deal of this food already." You know, a lot of people aren't real excited about leftovers. So I look at soup as a good opportunity to recreate something and to build on those flavors, like Judy said. So for me, I don't really follow a recipe. It's whatever I have on hand. So, you know, I love them all.
Excellent. Well, thanks. Yeah. We did have some people mention what their favorite soup was, and I think Jen has yellow split pea, and Carrie says vegetable beef with barley is my favorite. Barb Owen says chicken noodle, and Paul says, yep, gotta go with chicken noodle as well. And I say turkey soup any day, any hour. I love it. Linda says squash and carrot and maybe sweet potato. So please share. Oh, Judy, your favorite soup.
My favorite soup is chicken stock.
And it could only be better with St. Croix chicken, right? There we go.
Really good.
I'm on it.
You throw an egg in it, like poaching. You stir it with a fork very quickly, and you spoon that over some spinach in a bowl, and that is like heaven.
Oh, sounds. Well, I think Barbara's daughter might have something on you. Barbara tells us that her daughter makes a wonderful potato soup with cheddar cheese topping. Not bad. And Kathy tells us, I can't even say this, I can't say it, pasta fagioli. Am I saying that right? Somebody help. Am I saying that right? Come on, somebody knows. And butternut squash, apples, butternut squash and apple, split pea, too many. Okay, Kathy. I love it. That's so great, all these different things. I just wanted to share a couple of tips, and this is a reference to a couple of things you had said, both of you. But one of the things, Judy, you were saying, I was rummaging my freezer because I always have a plastic bag full of the ends or peels of all of my vegetables. I wash them well, and I just do exactly what you're saying, but I put them in the freezer. I just store a bag. It could be a grocery store plastic bag, which we're not using any longer, but whatever thing you have to put things in the freezer, just leave it like this, wrap it up, put it in the bag, add whatever peels you might have from onions, apples even, or garlic, rinsed, washed, and then do exactly what you're saying. I accumulate it during a few days, so they're freezing instantly. I put it right in there, and then later on in the week, I go, okay, I want a little soup base here, and I'll do that. I'll simmer it up, just what you were saying, Judy, and get a base for it, then put it through a sieve, and I have a great soup stock. And a way to store, as a master food preserver, I just want to mention, as a way to store soup stock, I got it, somebody mentioned it last week, I'm reminding you, I'm trying to find a way to put this here, I think it's okay. It's not just in the plastic bags. Of course, I was putting it in plastic bags and laying them flat and freezing them. And soup stock, of course, can be frozen, but also canning jars. And just leave a little head space at the top. So fill the jar up, leave about an inch, put this right in the freezer, and any size jar that you have. And you can reuse, I'm looking for my jar, it's underneath the squash somewhere. You can reuse the metal lids because we're not processing them. So I would never use metal lids when I was processing food, but you can use it a second time. I would use them when they're fresh and brand new, but a second time you can use in the freezer, of course, in your counter, but in the freezer so they can go just like that. Now, a couple of things I wanted to say was a great way to use bread, as you know, the crusty bread, sorry, I'm leaning over like that, is to make croutons. And you can cut up any bread, as you know. I see your heads nodding. But cut up any bread you know. Last year we did some webinars on sourdough bread. So I had some in the freezer, or it's because it's fermented. It does last a long time. But at some point I say, okay, I'm just going to cut this up. So I cut it up in little squares, as you can see, croutons. Put it in the put it right in the oven. Take it out, and I will put olive oil and maybe Asiago cheese on it, and maybe warm it up a little bit more so that it's really crisp. And I will be eating these during the day because they're so delicious. A little salt and pepper, maybe not, probably not. But sourdough bread is great, but so is any other bread you have. This has some pumpernickel bread in here and whatever else I had. So it's a great way to use it and a great way to season it the way you might like to eat it. And of course, you can always freeze it. So that's one thing. Another thing, a friend of mine pointed out today, she has this great recipe for, I think it's a coconut curry recipe. But she also said, don't forget the squash and the seeds. Don't forget the seeds. So I love all these different squashes that I've grown and love to grow. So as you know, Long Island wheel cheese pumpkin, that's what that's called, and the Blue Hubbard, the smaller ones. So you take the seeds out, and of course, I just take a paper bag, put this in a paper bag, go outside and smash it on the stone ground, and it'll crack open. I scoop the seeds out and put it right in there and bake. I don't peel it, I don't cut it. I just bake it right like that. I sometimes just eat the whole thing by putting it in the blender so that the skin is right there, depending what the squash is. Or I'll just scoop it out and put it in my soup or roast it to have it in a different way. So these seeds you might use on your soup to plate it nicely. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this, but let's see. I don't know. Can you see that? I have a box or something here in the way. Not sure what you can see. Can you see okay? The notes out of there. So we have our soup coming. And just, let's all pretend this is hot and steamy like Judy's soup. Phenomenal, but it isn't. But just gonna scoop the soup up. Can you see that?
Yes.
You can? Okay. So we're gonna scoop this great soup out, and then you can chop these up or just sprinkle them right on like that. Might take some croutons. You like those, put those onto the side or keep them to the side. And then, I go over to wherever I could to get my rosemary or whatever herb I might like to have on there. And just cut it up and sprinkle it on there. And it does not look as pretty as some soups. I can see that right now. But you get the idea, right? It can be a beautiful soup, all set to serve in a nice bowl, steaming hot. So don't forget the toppings is the point of what I'm saying. One other thing I wanted to tell you was that you can freeze soups pretty well. See, someone is saying, my mom put the stock in ice cube trays and then put the cubes in a freezer bag and you take it out as needed. What a great idea. As kids, she had chicken soup stock she would warm up when we were sick. That's from Sue Black. Thanks, Sue. That's a great thing to hear about. And Jen tells us, growing up, my mom always had a container for the last little bits of leftover vegetables from dinner. She kept it to make soup with. Clever. And that's great.
I just want to say a funny story, and it's true. So, I'm a doctor, a doctor, and in the 1970s they did a study at the VA hospitals, and they published it in a very prestigious magazine, medical journal called Chest. And what they did is every veteran that came in with pneumonia got lotteried into one of two groups, okay? And one group got the regular food at the VA hospital, and the other group, they had a Jewish grandmother come in and make chicken soup and gave the vets in the second group the Jewish grandmother's chicken soup, okay? And this is a true scientific article. And the vets that got the Jewish grandmother's chicken soup got out of the hospital 3 days sooner than the guys that got the regular food. So just in case you wanted to know if chicken soup was good for you, the answer, of course, is absolutely. Sorry for interrupting.
Phenomenal. No, it's phenomenal. I love it. It's perfect. The last thing I just wanted to say is about freezing your soups. Our reference is always, the USDA as Cornell Cooperative Extension representatives, and the Cooperative Extension from the University of Georgia has published this phenomenal book. It's called So Easy to Preserve. It's out there available. You can look it up online. It has great ways to preserve fruit. Not all canning, it's different. All the different things of dehydrating, freezing. All sorts of ways, but one of the best parts that I see in this is that how to freeze things properly, and we forget. You can just throw it in the freezer, but then there's ways to preserve it so that it will be of its best quality. So it says about soups and sauces for freezing, and it says for soups and purees, omit the potatoes, and if possible, concentrate by using less liquid. So when you're making your soup, cool it quickly, and package it. And one of the things I mentioned last week was you could take a container, line it in aluminum foil even, and put your food in it and then wrap it. So you're using this as a form. So you don't have to have special containers, but wrap it up in the plastic or the aluminum foil, whichever way you're going to freeze it. But it says, and cool it quickly and package it, or freeze in ice cube trays. There we go. Sue, there's your mom right there. She probably has this book. Sure, she's been doing it long before the book was printed. Leave headspace or freeze with ice cube trays and store the cubes in plastic bags. The second part is very important, and it's about thawing. People sometimes will want to leave the food on the counter to thaw. Heat without thawing. So if you've frozen soups or purees, heat without thawing, and heat cream soups over boiling water. Over boiling water, okay? Stir the cream soup to keep it smooth so it doesn't separate. And reheat to a rolling boil, or at least to a temperature of 165 degrees. And your soup should keep 4 to 6 months. So with that being said, I think we're ready for the winter. Bring it on, right? We've got our soups all set to go.
I want to share with everybody, I did put in the chat box the link. There was Judy was kind enough to prepare some recipes, and they've been typed. So there's some of Judy's recipes and a couple of resources. And again, like the Facebook page and the website for St. Croix. I put the link there, and they are on our website, but I'll email that out to people. But I just wanted to say it before I forgot it.
I do want to point out, I mentioned at the beginning, and then we can run that slideshow as people are before. But I want to say, Harvest Connection is put together by Cornell Cooperative Extension. It is a link to farms all throughout the Capital District, not just Rensselaer County. So you would just go on to harvestconnection-ny.com, and they also have an app. Your Google store, I think you can get the app for Harvest Connection. And you go on to that and you will find a whole listing. You can put your zip code in and say, I'm looking for vegetables today. Where? And they'll come up with all the places in your area that has vegetables for sale, or Christmas trees, or nursery plants, or beef, or chicken, or vegetables, or you list it, you name it, they have it. So, but they organize it for you. A map will come up even, and you'll see the dots on where these different places are. And you'll go right to their website, every website, and like they'll have stories about their own farms. Every farm has some story. Well, most of them, many of them have stories about their own farm and what they produce. So you get to know, just like John and Eva were saying, you get to know personally the people who are producing the food that you're entrusting to your, for your nutrition. And it is a trust. It is a trust. And I think that's a very good point that Eva was saying. It matters who's eating our food and that we are nourishing. The word nourishing, you said. How many times do you hear that in the grocery store, in the general stores? This is community building, relationship building. So I personally, and I'm sure I can speak for people on our website tonight, thank you so much for your dedication to producing healthy foods for all of us in our community and farther. John and Eva, thank you so much, St. Croix Farm. We really, really appreciate it. It means a lot.
I was just thinking, what a great way to do some like local Christmas shopping is like using Harvest Connection to find some like local gifts, or a farm like St. Croix, like give somebody a basket of meat, it's just great.
Or a gift certificate, for any of,
Yeah, on our website, we do have gift certificates and gift baskets available. So you can curate your own gift basket. You can let us know what you'd like to put in it, and it will, it'd be priced accordingly. And then we also have on December, make sure I say the right date, December 2nd and December 4th, we have a little event called Cookies from the Farm. We open up our home and invite people in. We have local crafters, vendors, and producers, and set up the house like a little shop. You can come in and maybe pick a few things off your shopping list. That'd be a great place to grab your gift certificates and order your gift baskets too. The dates and times are on our website, but it's December 2nd and 4th, open to the public. We'd love to meet you.
Oh, that's great. You'll see me.
We had someone, Linda said, thank you to the farm for their presentation. Judy, thank you so much for coming all the way from far down in that warm place that you stay. That's really wonderful. Lucky you. But thank you very, very much for coming this far and on Zoom and sharing all that you have. And thank you to your grandson. I know he was your technical assistant there. So we really appreciate that effort too. And thank you so much, Judy. And
Thank you.
And Marcy, thank you. Amazing technical. We appreciate it. There's so many different moving parts. We practice this, but we're from all different parts of the county and the connectivity is always changing. So with that, does anybody have any other questions or comments they want to make? Please put them in the chat box and enjoy the resources. What?
Thank you's coming in. Thank you. Love the show.
Oh, great.
That's great. Good.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Any questions, please call Cornell Cooperative Extension 272-4210.